So you guys are a massive, massive brand. You've had like rapid scale and rapid evolution, kind of in the market and the way people experience sound. But would you give a little bit of an intro on you and the brand and what you're all about?
So my name is Goele. It's a Belgian name, not very common there either. Very difficult to pronounce. And I'm here with Loop Earplugs. I'm responsible for e-commerce. And I don't know if you've heard of Loop Earplugs, but basically what we do is we sell earplugs. That sounds very simple, very basic maybe. But the mission I think is a bit broader than that. We, when it's sunny outside, I know today is not the best day, but you don't think twice. Normally, you just put on sunglasses. With earplugs, why should that be any different, right? Hearing loss is permanent. When you're in a club, when you're at a festival, why should you think twice? Why would you maybe hesitate to put in earplugs? So we're really on a mission to kind of change that and have people just put in earplugs when they need to.
And so what kind of key elements make like a high performing econ flight in today's landscape, and how has Loop approached that?
There's a lot of them. I think speed is key. But when it comes to website loading pages, but also when it comes to making sure that you capture your visitors, your customers' attention. So I think that is a very big one. I have a few, so I'll just go over them and then I'll circle back. I think it's also having super clear value props. I think it's having a very reliable, credible brand that focuses on social proof as well. People need to feel comfortable buying from you. And then obviously, I think also having a very good offer that makes it sort of a very no-brainer to buy. Those are the four elements. And basically what we're doing at Loop when it comes to the first one, so when it comes to speed and UX, we have a pretty big e-commerce team compared to a lot of brands.
And most agencies.
Most agencies, that's what you told me. So we have 4 developers in-house at the moment. And basically one of the things they work on a lot is core web vitals, just making sure, especially when it comes to high traffic pages, to landing pages, just making sure that you have, minimal friction points, that everything loads super fast. We also, 86% of our traffic comes from mobile. So we also, everything that we design basically is mobile first. We also last year only decided that we were still testing on desktop, but we only have 86%. Yeah, we only have 14% of people actually visiting our website on desktop. While building out those tests, they did take away a lot of our capacity. They were more complex. So we decided to just forgo testing on desktop when it comes to experimentation altogether and only focus on mobile. So that really enabled us to scale up our testing roadmap. When it comes to value props, it's something that we still struggle with a bit because people do notice, they find it difficult to notice what is now the exact difference between an earplug. But we're now implementing, basically our PDPs are the pages that receive the most traffic, and I think they're cognitive load, they're very text heavy still, and people don't read anymore. I think 80% nowadays, they just scan a PDP and they don't actually read the copy that's on there. They just want to know what is basically this product doing. So we're completely revamping our image gallery at the moment. The objective is basically that as soon as you scroll through the image gallery, you've read
all of the info.
Exactly. So you've seen the entire PDP. You know everything that you need to do, what you need to know, and you can just immediately purchase. So that is something else that we do to make those value props a lot clearer. And then when it comes to social proof, if you have any press mentions or awards, for several of our products, we won the Red Dot Design Awards, which is, if you're into product, it's kind of a prestigious award. So that's very much forefront on the PDPs and the touch points that matter. And what was the last one I said? Yeah, bundles, basically having a good offer, having good discounts, and making people need to feel like they're making a deal, and not that it's maybe if they look at PDP next week again, all of a sudden, they see a better deal. No, they need to feel like this is the deal of a lifetime. It's basically, you need to give them sort of permission, or you need to reassure them that they're making a smart decision by buying from you. That is, in my opinion, the 4 key elements.
And how are you balancing aesthetic versus functionality, or conversion versus aesthetic? Because it's equally as important, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's like I was thinking about that question, and it's, you have multiple versions of sort of that discussion or that version going of that that question going on. It's like brands versus performance, it's aesthetic versus functionality, or it's e-com versus brands, depending on the size of the company. And I feel that actually it's not a matter of one versus the other. It's also not really about balance, because for me, balance sort of implies compromise. Well, I don't think you necessarily need to compromise on one or the other. I think really great design just basically is design that ultimately helps performance to convert better. So it's about being super, super intuitive, I think, in your designs. It's about reducing cognitive load, keeping it simple, keeping it clear. And then I think they should really go hand in hand together. But then at the same time, I'm the first one to say that at Loop, I think we're not necessarily doing a good enough job yet of having, those very aesthetically high-end designs for instance, on some of our really key touch points. So if you look on our PDPs, if you look at the buy box, if you look at our hero visuals, for instance, they don't necessarily look the part. They perform really well, but they don't necessarily look the part. And so for us this year or the next coming months, that those are sort of the tests that we're running. Like, how can we achieve the same or even better performance, but with better looking designs? And maybe I have a fun example. So we redesigned the hero. If you go to the website now, when you look at the current hero, it's like a rather bulky, not net. The CTA is not even like above the fold; it's below the fold. So it's not necessarily like a very nice looking design, and I kind of hate it. So like this needs to look better. So we came up with this new design, looked super sleek, and it was it really married, I felt, aesthetics and functionality, because we'd taken into account, all the best practices when it comes to conversion. Your CTAs were above the folds. You saw your product really clearly. You had your value prop in there, blah 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 blah, and it still looked very sleek. So the entire team were all like, this is gonna work, no brainer. We're just gonna run a test, and then we're just gonna straight to implementation. Maybe it's gonna run flat, but it's definitely gonna be like, this is the next one. Guess what happens? What? It was the test that concluded with like a -4% in conversion rates.
Wow!
So that didn't work at all. Was very, very frustrating. We're running an iteration now, so that should be better. That actually has the CTA below the fold again.
But crazy, because that's like usually like best practice.
Yeah,
one, isn't it? So that's what you tell everyone that they should be doing.
Exactly. So it's a roll-up test. So there was a few different hypotheses. It could be that actually was one of the things that did work well, but we also really reduced the text size. So I felt like the conclusion was we made it too sleek and there was not enough friction anymore. So people don't read. So they just click the button and they didn't think about what is the website that I'm like looking at? What do I want? Is this the product for me? So I think we're trying now to build in a little bit of friction so people actually are forced to look at the product a bit better, to read a bit more. But it could be that we move the CTA. I mean, I hope that the CTA is going to end up above the fold at some point, and that was just a matter of looking at the different compartments, like the text size and how that all comes together. But yeah, so just all that to say is like your gut feeling is one thing, but data, yeah, indeed.
And what about like personalization? Like, we'll probably talk a lot about AI today because you have to. But what role does that play, like with Loop?
AI plays a big role at Loop, but when it comes to the websites, we're scratching the surface. I feel like I'm saying a lot of like not so positive things about the websites. So we're scratching the surface. We work with Rebuy, and we have those AI recommended cross and upsells across the PDPs and the checkout and the cards. I think we do a lot of in our email campaigns. We have a lot of personalizations built in, but there's no like situation, or we don't have all of this data, customer data centralized, and we're not able to, based on your user behavior, so we're able to send you to this super tailored personalized landing page. That's we're not doing that at all. So it is something that we're gonna look into more, but we're just doing so many things at the same time that you need to make choices. We only have 5 core products. So it's not like we have a lot of, I'd say, a lot of personalization that necessarily needs to build into when it comes to merchandising. But what we are doing, and which I think is maybe also interesting, is localization. So Loop, like, they've been scaling really, really quickly for the last 4 years, and we were actually able to do that globally without any sort of localization. So wherever you were, the website would always be the same. It would be the same visuals, it would be the same copy, it would all be in English. I think we like localized the blog a little bit, in the sense that we have we were talking about festivals, for instance. In Belgium we'd be talking about Tomorrowland, but then in the US we'd be talking about Coachella. That was like, that is as far as we went. It's also because we tried localization 2.5 years ago and we failed miserably. I mean, we didn't see an uplift. We put in a lot of work, but we basically didn't see any results. And then last year, what we decided to do is, let's be more data driven about it. It's not because, it was like 2.5 years, 3 years ago, it was Germany that we tried to localize. It's like, obviously it needs to be Germany. It's a big e-commerce market. Not a lot of them speak English, let's go for it. But we hadn't really tried it sort of lean and mean. Let's try an MLP and see what works. So last year, what we did was we had identified several markets, and we basically created these isolated funnels for all of those markets. So we had several ads, landing page, checkouts, and that would basically split test. So you had one funnel that was in English, then you had the exact same funnel in Spanish, for instance. And that we ran a few tests with those funnels, and we saw that Spain actually performed really, really, really well when it came to localized assets, translated assets. We had a 52% increase in conversion rate, a 42% increase in ROAS. But that was isolated, right? It was for one particular product. They couldn't really serve the entire website. So that was for us the first data point to really make us decide that, okay, Spain is going to be the market where, with the least amount of efforts, we can probably scale the fastest. So yeah, that's why now we're basically working on localizing Spain full website.
Wow. And then I suppose once you'll test out more and more markets, you're having standalones for
Exactly, yeah.
Keep you busy. And I think we've got time for one more, but is there any advice that you would give to brands that are looking to improve either their on-site experience? I mean, that hand in hand really with driving conversions as well.
I think you need to, what for us was a major game changer was understanding the main friction points of your customer. Really, because you can do a lot with experimentation, and it's easy to get caught up in, this is sort of the next shiny thing, or I see an incremental change here if I make but it's really about, I think if you want to lift the baseline, then you need to understand what is sort of the common problem that your customers are facing. And for us, that was, I talked about it before a little bit, it was understanding what our earplugs are doing and what the differences are between our earplugs. So we had actually 29% of the people, our customers, didn't understand or had issues finding the right earplug. So which is, it's crazy if you think that it's such a simple product, and it really shouldn't be that hard. We have an earplug for sleeping, we have one that goes for noise sensitivity, you have something for everything that's to do with music, but still. So we learned that we really need to put our use cases way more front and center. So that's on the one hand what we did, but we also went a lot bigger and bolder, I would say, in the sense that you realize that people don't understand decibels. What is the difference between 16 decibels noise reduction and 18 decibels noise reduction? So we're working now on a tool that really lets you hear the difference between the earplugs. Yeah, so and that's going to be on the PDP, so people can easily okay, I'm looking at this particular product. What does it sound like? If I want to go to different product, different use case, what does that sound like?
And then you'll do it for different events that they would possibly
Yeah,
attend.
yeah, indeed. So that is one of the things. We also we developed a sort of guided selling tool that takes you through a 3-step process so that you can easily decide, okay, in this phase, what is my use case? Then, okay, these are the products that, answer to that use case. These are the colors they come in. These are the bundles, that include them. So yeah, just really spelling it out for people. Those are sort of the bigger things that we try to do. But all of that, you just figure out what the issue is that your customers are having, what makes them potentially leave the website or like hesitant to buy, and just act on that, I would say.
And like, would you recommend any like specific tools like heat mapping or?
We work with Clarity, which is like a free Microsoft tool, and it's really, really good. And then we supplement that with heatmap.com. They also have super interesting data. They're able to let you really like see the revenue that each section brings to your website. And yeah, it's really game changing, the data that they come with.
How often should people be reviewing that data, do you think?
Probably more often than you're doing now. So.
Does anyone have heat mapping on their site now? And are you actively like reviewing it as often as you can? Yeah. Well, everyone needs to do it more.
Need to do it more. Yeah.
Well, that's amazing. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.